New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment. Inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello. Welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and I'm here just in time to say hello.
Because we have animals, as you will see during this, and he had to get to one of them. So thank you for joining us today. We're so excited to see you. Oh, hello, Shay. Gosh, we can always count on Shay. So good to see you. Wherever you're coming in from, you know us from many different places, whether it's a workshop or a church or speaking.
Or gosh, a really funny joke. Oh, no, jokes. No, I'm not a comedian. I get confused. That's not one of the places you'll find me is doing comedy.
And if you do, get your money back and run the other way. So anyway, well, we're just happy to be here. And I know there's many of you out there that are hiding and you never say hello, but later on in conversation, you're like, oh, I saw your show this week. So we welcome you.
We welcome you, and we encourage you to send us a note. Let us know you're here and respond. Ask a question. Tell us you think we're nuts, whatever. We like to interact with all of you.
So join in. Today's topic is love throughout the ages.
Ooh, love through the ages.
Woo. Old love.
Sounds intense.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we'd love to have you join in. So please do that. Please like us. If you can hit that little like button, it makes a difference. And not only for us, but for New Thought Media, because the more we're liked, the better it is. It's just like life. So today, we will get to that topic. But before we do, what a week. All the weeks are crazy, aren't they? I mean, it just seems like...
Well, it's nonstop. Nonstop week. Nonstop stuff.
Nonstop stuff. But the good part for me is that football is now over. Not that that's bad. I like football. But after football comes baseball. America's sport. That's right. Anyway, baseball. It's spring training time. That's so exciting. It's so exciting. So I'm excited.
And I have to say that I
could care less.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's true. It's pretty funny. Like when we're with people that don't know us, you know, like another couple that's man and woman, the man is always like, oh, so, you know, you watching the game? And he's like, I am, blah, 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 blah. And the stats on this person is, and they're always like, So it's interesting to see where those stereotypes still live.
Yes. And love throughout the ages has definitely informed some of those stereotypes throughout the ages, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
She says we're nuts.
All right. Thank you.
But you're here, so what does that say?
I feel seen.
That's good. It's time to be nuts. It's time to go crazy for love in the world. It's time to just let it all go. That's what I say.
Because love is the only thing that is stronger than what we what we fear, what we see, what we think is overtaking the world.
Yeah.
You know, and when we can love the Gulf of Mexico right back into the Gulf of Mexico, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, what I've come to this week. This is what I've come to, and is that really? I know we say this stuff all the time, but there is no mistake that we are here at this time. Anybody listening, anybody who listens in the future, because we are seekers, we are looking, and we have looked, we have taken workshops, we have listened to people speak, we have gone to church services, we have gone to not church services, we have
On to
take,
silent retreats.
taken classes and done all the things that has prepared us for this moment. So I truly believe that we are prepared. Even the people I've talked to this week that are like, oh, it's so hard to speak up, or what do you say about it? I don't know the answer to that for you, but what I know is that you know, and whatever you do, it's the right thing. And that every time we hear these stories or this static on the line about whatever has gone on that makes us want to slap our heads and go, really? That we are expanding our awareness. We are expanding our ability to be more love. We are that static, that sign. We have to breathe and let it go, and go to our practices, go to our beliefs, go to our trust, go to our faith, whatever you go to. And you have to know that you are here on purpose at this time.
And what we're seeing in the world is fear showing up. Fear being expressed. People not able to receive the love, understand the love, be a part of the love, realize where love needs to be. Yeah. I mean, should I share that story I shared with you earlier?
Maybe.
So I just read an article this morning about a couple of sisters who purchased a plantation. A couple of Black women purchased a plantation because it had been the center of a slave uprising in like 1811. And they grew up down the street in the 70s and 80s and experienced the Ku Klux Klan marching down the road, people sicking dogs on them when they were trying to go somewhere, and all of the racist kinds of things that you can think of. And what she realized, or started to realize with this plantation, is that it was in the middle of a row of plantations. This roadway that the Ku Klux Klan would go down is the road that the slaves were using as they were fighting against their owners. And so reality is that she began to understand that this is the people's fear being expressed. This all of those things that happened with the Ku Klux Klan marching and all that stuff is about them trying to regain some sense of control without having the depth of understanding to understand that there's a different way to do that. But they're acting out of fear. And I sense we're continuing to see that now. We're seeing how we have progressed so far in some ways. And we've gone into diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh my God, what a horrible thing. We need to get rid of that. Why? Because some people don't understand it. All they understand is that somehow their perceived power has been threatened, and they don't know how else to respond other than out of fear. They can't figure out how to respond in a positive, loving way. So with that, I conclude my sermon of the day. You can find me on Sunday mornings at Rio Grande. However, there is a guest speaker this week, so you want to listen to me. There you go.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much happening. But anyway, I mean, we both had a little sermon moment. So I think that is the good news, but there's even more. So it's time for the good news. And that is our segment where we highlight some of the good stuff.
We talk about good news. Yes. And I am going to freak out our producer because I've changed my mind about what I'm going to talk about. But the article that I found that I think is really fascinating is about this older man lives in Pacific Palisades, California, on the ocean. His wife had died about a year ago. He's still dealing with all of the things that one deals with when they lose their partner of many years. And he was extremely worried, upset, whatever, regarding leaving the house and all of the things in it that represented their life together. And by some miraculous thing, his house was the one on the block that's still standing. And that's the first part of it. The second part, though, is that there's a group of firefighters from El Segundo, I believe, that were actually working the fire by his house. And they literally were able to stop the fire as it burnt the fence between his house and the neighbor's house. They stopped it from catching his door on fire, and they stopped it from jumping to his roof. And they left him this really beautiful note about how they were very saddened by the devastation in the neighborhood, and they wished everyone well, and that they hoped that this little bit would be, wonderful for him, that his house was still there. And then they actually had some selfies that they'd taken. They told him that they actually took respite on his deck overlooking the ocean, watching the sunset when they had a few minutes, because it was the only deck left there, and how much they appreciated his home. So, it's
Michael,
just fascinating.
Do you see in the picture? In the story. There's a picture on their deck, and it's really it's very cool because it shows. There you go.
All the firefighters in their firefighting regalia. They're on his deck. There you can see the sun setting in the background.
And the beautiful colors from the devastating fire.
Yeah.
But it was very sweet that they took the time to write that note, and the man and his family was so happy because of the wife having died, and that was all he had left of her.
So. Right. And so he, my sense is that probably even more important than his house now, he has this memory of these people, and he's met these wonderful people, and he has this new connection that all shifts the whole thing about losing a loved one in your life. So I thought it was pretty cool. It's in the midst of what we see as devastation, in the midst of what we see as something horrible, it isn't all horrible. That isn't what it is. It's bigger. And I just wanted to share that. What do you got?
My story is about a baby and a mom that they removed the mom's womb for spinal surgery on the baby because the baby was I believe the baby was around 26 weeks along, and she and it had spina bifida.
Spinal bifida.
Spina bifida. And she was told that during her pregnancy, and they had the choice they had three choices, to abort, to let it be and see what happened, or to have this surgery. And I just marvel at medical science sometimes, and just at the possibilities. So they literally removed the womb and to do the surgery on the
To keep the baby in the womb while they were doing the surgery?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
On the base of the spine. And this was so the baby was then born at 31 weeks, and his legs were kicking normally and everything. And he stayed in the hospital for 4 weeks, and finally came home. But he was about 3 months old and hitting all the milestones, and all he has is a little scar on his back. But I mean, this was from them going from telling them he would be, fully, disabled and not able to walk ever, and or eat on his own or take care of himself.
Right.
And
right. Spinal bifida is when the spinal cord is open somehow, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And so that creates all kinds of issues. And if they were able to go in and actually repair that, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it's yeah. And to me, I wanted to do this story too, because I thought, in this week of Valentine's Day and this week of love, like what incredible love and faith and everything in action on the part of everybody, I mean, I don't know. It sounds scary to me. If somebody told me they were going to go into the womb, it sounds scary.
Well, I think the piece you didn't exactly say was that they took him out, did the surgery with the womb, and then took the womb and baby and put him back inside mom.
Right.
For another 5 weeks. I mean, that's some heroic measures. But I think it points out a couple of things. One is, life isn't as simple as we want to make it. And, there are people that would argue that you shouldn't touch anything and just let the baby be born. Well, that may not be the best option always. Certainly not with what we can do now.
Mm.
And this baby will have this baby will be a contributor, someone who is able to live life versus someone who becomes a certain level of a burden on others.
Yes. It's so interesting in so many levels. I mean, I think also here's a baby that's, newborn or 3 months, and look how much life they've had already. Like, I mean, really, in terms of like when we talk about, familial trauma or generational this or blah, 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 blah. I mean, oh my God, what, and I mean, maybe it's all good. Maybe it's no thing, but it's still a lot of energy, and it's amazing,
Yeah.
So amazing acts of love and heroism and faith
and parental love, I must say.
Parental love. Yeah. I mean, because you're making a decision for everybody.
Well, and I'm sure a very risky one. I mean, in theory, who knows? That could have gone multiple directions that did not include that baby being fine.
Yeah.
So.
But he is. The baby's fine. The mom's fine. Everybody's fine. The house is fine. It's a good time. It's all possible. So right now, what's possible is a break. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk about love throughout the ages. Love throughout the ages, and just how it's shown up and what it is now, and we'll see where we go. So don't go away. Come right back here to New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Hello, welcome back to Rockin the Love. He's Gil.
And she's Robyn, and we've been married for a while, and we love to talk about Rockin the Love. Love is all about how you do it to stay in relationship with yourself and with others, and so that's what this show is all about, being in relationship. And today's topic, we're not talking about love, we're talking about love through the ages.
Okay, Shay has already said we're nuts, so that's the disclaimer for today. If you're new or just joining us, we're nuts.
All right.
But it's okay. We're nuts for love. So, yeah, love throughout the ages.
So where do you start with that? You go back, to some of the ancient stuff. You think about what did love look like in Shakespeare's plays? Think about the fact that, we know that the Greeks had, I don't know how many different words for different kinds of love, and so we tend to think of there's one love, period. But the Greeks were very clear that it was multiple different things. People, go ahead.
Well, I think along those lines, the Greeks having different words for love, I think that begs the question for me of has love always looked the same? Meaning, because when we started on this topic, we were talking about relationships and things, and like from the love back in the days to love now sometimes comes down to what emoji you're using. And so talking about that, I'm thinking like back in the ages when it all started, I mean, people didn't even always know each other,
Right. Arranged
and
marriages
arranged
and things like
marriages.
that. Yeah.
And so was that love, love. And maybe that has something to do with the
So
different kinds of love.
was love a duty then, or was love a choice?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I think yes to both, don't you? Kind of.
Yes. I mean, I always think back to Fiddler on the Roof, that capturing that idea of what I've been with you all this time. I've done this. I've done that. What do you mean? Do I love you? You know, that's sort of that crux of that arranged. We're together, so here we are, and I must love you because look at how we've worked together, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't mean to change our topic, but that kind of goes into for me that goes into kind of a male, a female, and I'm not trying to ignore any genders or anything, but my experience is that like you tend to think if you fix the dishwasher that, well, duh, that you love me. Why else would you have fixed the dishwasher? Whereas I tend to go, okay, but where are the roses? Or whatever.
Yes.
Do not take this conversation literally. But this is, what I'm saying. It's the, so I mean, is that love?
Well, I believe it is love from different perspectives. But what I was referring to in that was knowing that was an arranged couple, an arranged marriage. I remember that piece of it, that they'd been brought together as kids basically and thrown in the same room, and now you're married. And but there's a level at which this caring for one another builds up over time, that looks different. But in terms of now, as you indicate, in our relationship, you can't just point to that and say that's love, because there's some of that I might do just because it's got to be done.
Well, and because you love yourself
so much.
But you love yourself enough to take care of the things that need to be done. I mean, and that make you comfortable.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. But I think, I mean, the thing that got us on this topic was like just the difference in what it looks like. So, yeah, we start from a time where there were arranged marriages, and we go to this time where you may not even be together with your partner. It may just be something online or, over the computer, over the phone, I mean, and what all the different ways of communicating love, like back in the, before the digital age, there was, you'd write a letter, you'd write a poem, you'd show up, and you'd bring flowers, and you'd do things differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, what is it that's done?
Well, I think all of those
You send
are
a
done.
dick pic.
It's
Sorry.
I think all of those things are done to some degree, but they don't look exactly the way they did. And the reality is, nothing looks like it did before, and we're all evolving. I mean, the reality of arranged marriage was that it was actually a contractual agreement, and it was a way to unload the daughter so that the parents didn't have to continue to feed her. I mean, those kinds of things, we have radically shifted our understanding of what human value is, and and what love is. I mean, in some ways, that was a very loving thing for those parents because they wanted the child to be cared for, the child, the young adult, the whatever. Right?
Okay.
But it wasn't always taken into consideration at what cost. And I think, we see that in all kinds of things where we talk about, children and stuff today who are abused and all that. People are acting from a space of their understanding of love. And so love through the ages has always contained that piece where people could not love beyond what they understood.
But do you? Okay, yes, okay. But do you really feel like? I think what I heard you say was that some of this stuff is the same,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in the early ages, I think that music and poetry and what we know as romanticism, um, and I'm talking romanticism pre-merchandising era, you know, I think that. Do you really think that that still exists?
Do I think it still exists now?
Yeah. You mean,
Yeah, because I think it exists now at some level, probably as much as it did then, in the sense that, a lot of that was a lot of the formalization of that was only available to the um, privileged, because you didn't have music, you didn't have a way to write, you didn't have these different things. Um, Now all of that is available in a different way to people. Now how it's used and how people actually take advantage of it, I think a certain level has dropped off because people don't. I don't think people value their own input, their own creativity. Does that make sense?
yes. Shay says that was more of a financial arrangement. Now we get to choose who we love and marry. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do, but I think there was different. I mean, yes, I agree with what you're saying, and I also think there was a different protocol. I mean, I know that's what we're saying, obviously, where you still there were the courts of love, and that was all about romance, and where you did have to serenade somebody, whether you serenaded them or somebody else played, but there was music and there was. It seems like there was more.
Hmm.
More creativity. I mean, I think in alignment with what I said earlier, I think now we have merchandising, so you run out and you get a Hallmark card and buy a bunch of flowers from the guy in the corner. Not that that's bad. It's not that that's bad, but it's a different thought process. I think, and I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm romanticizing the earlier era, but I do think that I also think I would also say that I think in this era we've seen so much in TV and movies and all of that it's like, how do we live up to that sometimes? How do we compete with that? Because we can't go just do you know what somebody just did on TV because it's cost thousands of dollars or whatever. And so, but does that take away where it should be coming from?
No, it doesn't think where it should be coming from. But I think you hit on something really important, and that is romanticizing love. That's exactly not exactly. That's a piece of the issue that we're experiencing in politics is we're romanticizing a time that somehow came before this time and things were better then. And the reality is no, No, they weren't. I mean, yes, we had all of these ways to court, etc., but they were all very much controlled and set up. And if you courted the wrong person, that wasn't going to work. You couldn't court somebody outside your class or whatever it was. You couldn't make a decision. You couldn't see someone or have a conversation with someone who wasn't appropriately matched to your finances, etc. So as much as we want to go how romantic, it was romantic if it was perfectly set up, but so much of it was contrived. It had to be contrived, lest the princess get connected with the horse stall boy.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, but I think also there are things now that are contrived.
Oh yeah.
I think, so what has, so jumping ahead in eras, what has the impact of technology been on this thing called love?
Well, technology has allowed us to cut through some of those barriers because it's available to a large population. A large percentage of people have access to this kind of communication, and it cuts across distance because you don't have to be within a certain range to be in communication with someone electronically. So that shifts all of that. However, it also opens up a whole bunch of possibilities where people pretend to be something they're not, in order to, again, get something in what essentially is a financial arrangement, looking to create gain for themselves, and looking for ways to take advantage. But that's always been there as well, to some degree.
Yeah, it has, and there's always, it feels like there's both positive and negative, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, is what is, like, for instance, what made it wildly different that you and I talked on the phone before we met? I mean, that was a technological thing.
Yeah, it's a technological thing.
But
To me, I equate that with the computer, the same thing.
And we connected completely that way.
But so that, to me, begs the question. There's that because I was just thinking that, we've also lived through different eras of technology. Like when we talk about kids, when we talk about, our teenagers, god kids, and things like that, like it is the basis for their relationship, is online and on the computer, and going to sites and meeting kids, and how many followers they have, and this follower liked them, and they did this and they did that, and it's different. I mean, I think that, so story of when we met on the phone talking in business, and had conversation until it got interesting, and we were having other conversations besides about work, and yeah, I think our relationship our relationship grew and blossomed and all of those things, and we actually knew we were going to get married before we even met physically, and we were old. I mean, but he was getting out of his second marriage, and I mean, we were old enough to have explored different aspects of relationship. So I think the challenge is what you said, that one doesn't always know why the other person's on the other side of the line.
Mhm.
in when they're exploring. We know a couple of people who have had relationships over the internet that aren't healthy. They're not. Um, it doesn't feel like they're in integrity. There's a lot of unknowns, and you know, what am I saying?
Saying that it doesn't appear that they're in a relationship with people who are actually representing themselves to be who they are.
Right.
And that's we all do that to some degree. I mean, there's a difference between representing yourself as a totally different thing, but we all attempt to put forth a certain kind of attitude or understanding about who we are when we meet people. It's why people talk about trying to make sure their resume looks really good, because we want people to see us in a certain way, and that certainly happens in love. But I think you hit on something really interesting earlier, and that's about how young people communicate. That it tends to be as kids we talked on the phone with people, right? But we also went to their houses, we went to the mall, we went to the whatever else we did and hung out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Went to the football game on Friday night, something like that. And what we see a lot of is these kids will sit in the same proximity, but they're texting with someone else who's somewhere else down the road, or maybe they're texting with someone else sitting next to them, but they're communicating in what appears to be a non-personal way, because it's cut off somehow. There doesn't seem to be the connection, the touch, on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
on as regular of a basis. That it's much less about being connected to a friend and hanging out with them as it is chatting in a way that makes it very, very, I would think it would be very safe in a certain way, because you can't get hurt in the same way, and you can, all this kind of stuff, because you're not risking showing up. And I think that changes the landscape of love. How do we create really incredible, loving relationships if we're not willing to risk and show up?
So is the question then to will love survive the digital age? So
Will love.
That's a little dramatic, but you know what I mean. Can it can it flourish during this kind of communication and connection?
And I think it can, and I think it does. I mean, I think it's doing fine, if you will. It looks different. I think for some people, it's going to take longer for them to develop those relationships. But I think people are finding their way through it, and they're getting exposure to a lot more people. They're getting exposure to having experiences that we never had when we were that age. Some of them good, some of them not. But they have to become learning experiences, finding out that just because someone's nice to you online doesn't mean that they don't actually want to take advantage of you.
But yes to all that you're saying, and I'm thinking about now too, because I'm not talking so much about teenagers, even though we are, but we're not. But like, how many people do we know that have been on dating apps? People our age, that it's not successful. I mean, I don't know anyone. I mean, yes, I have stories about the friends that have met their husband there, but those are from a while ago. Those are from that. I haven't heard that lately. You know what I mean? Like, all the people we know that have been on dating apps, it's not like that's successful either. And usually what I hear, and I usually hear from the woman, is, well, no, we've actually heard from men too, is just there's not that I don't know, that connection, that spark, that communication that happens, whatever that pheromone is or whatever that, you know what I mean? There's not that thing, the thing that happens.
The thing. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I mean, and I think, but and I'm just saying that to say that I think that also not only kids and with emojis and this and that, but I think that, you know, definitely adults have grown into a different stage of communication as well, you know, and let go of some, like, I'm sorry, maybe it's me, but you know, there is that romantic form of love, and whether it's a, you know, a love letter or roses or whatever it is, I mean, all of that, I think a lot of that has been taken away, and I think it's an important component.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I think the word I would use is lost. It gets lost. Um, and in part, it gets lost, again, if you go to digital age and technology, because we used to go to our work, our job, our school even, and we would do the thing and we would come home. If it was school and we had homework, we had an assignment. But there wasn't any more communication. There was nothing else that was going to show up and tell us, oh, by the way, you need to think about this before tomorrow. I need you to give me an answer to this. What's going on around that? I mean, people are tied to interacting with other people in ways that we never were. So even the time and energy to be creative and to think of doing those things gets swallowed up in a certain way because work doesn't stop, you know, unless we start to make clear boundaries around that kind of thing. But people expect a response. Because I asked a question, I am looking for the response.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that you say that, because I think, I mean, I think that brings up a good point. I would say, and is that true? Is that true? Because if we can't find time, I mean, that's part of a social structure that we've all made up, that we have so much to do, and this is important and that's important, and, you know, not giving time to loving, to putting the effort into a relationship, you know, to loving in a way that can be felt in a different, you know, for a different person, or
Well,
special or something.
yes, I hear you, and I wasn't making it an excuse. What I was trying to say was that as a society, as a culture, that has shifted people's sense or belief about what they're able to do and what they have time for and how they have to show up to things.
Yeah, I got it. I
Yeah,
didn't think you were doing anything. I'm just saying, I mean, it begs the question, is it important
right.
nowadays? Is it important? And if it is, you know, I mean, because I mean, I know with you in the beginning, and this was over 20 years ago, I said to you, can can we have romantic love forever? You know, because I was tired of hearing people tell me, yeah, it's not going to be the same after this point because it's not new anymore, and blah 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 blah. I didn't need the same, but what I wanted to know was, you know, can we continue to be fun, to be interesting, to be relevant, to be connected, to be, you know, all of those things? Because I didn't want to be the couple that I waited on that didn't talk through their whole meal when I was waitressing or whatever. So keeping it relevant, keeping it real, keeping it alive. And like, can that happen, or is that happening in this digital age? You know? And is it important? And what's important to you? What is important to you you, the listeners, in relationship, and how do we, how do we, and I mean, it kind of goes to love languages, I'm sure, too. But, I think about like, we're constantly doing little things for each other, that, I don't know, add some kind of oomph. But I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, so it doesn't have to, anybody has to serenade me under the balcony or, write a love letter. But, and if that's your thing, like, how do we keep whatever it is alive? Because, like you said, in this day and age of us not having enough time to do anything, I guess maybe we'll go back to love letters with AI. AI, write me a letter. Right? I mean, but I'm serious. It's really not that funny.
Why don't you do it right now? Let's see what we get.
I would if there was time.
So, but all that brings me to just what I was thinking about shortly before we came on, and that was how much you let me know you love me. Quiet, Henry. I know you're jealous.
So go say more about that.
Just that your patience, your making me a sandwich, but you don't make a sandwich. You make a sandwich with this and that, the other thing, and it's always got that little extra, and I appreciate that. And is everything perfect in our world? No. And do I know you love me? Yes.
So I guess that is the question. This show has taken a turn. But I mean, the question is, in this digital age, in this time of change, really, how do we make sure that our needs are met, right? Or that we meet the needs of somebody else in what they need.
How can we express love to others? How do we express love to others? Those that are in intimate relationships, those that are in other kinds of relationships with us. How do we continue to express the love to ourselves? Maybe one of the things of expressing love to ourselves, and something I've taken to recently, is I freaking take a nap when I'm tired. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be anything. But, if I feel myself feeling tired and grumpy, I go, you know what? Let's just take a nap and then go on to the next meeting, the next thing, because that makes me feel so much better.
Well, interesting that you say that, because that's one of the ways that I show love is I let you take a nap.
That is true.
But really, I mean, that sounds funny, but really, because there was a time when I would have been like, oh, come on, let's do this, let's do that. We could do this. You'll be okay. Because I wanted to do stuff or whatever. And it's a letting go to go, okay, take a nap, But anyway.
Enough about
us. So in this Valentine's Day of quotes and times, I just want to share one quote with you. Actually, after I see what Shay said.
Y'all so cute.
Oh, thanks, Shay. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. I just want to share this quote. I'm going to leave you with this, and hope you have a beautiful Valentine's week. Love yourself, because that's what matters.
So we got Valentine's, Galentine's, Mealentine's, Guyentine's, whatever you're doing, just do it and make it loving.
Okay. One day you will ask me, which is more important, my life or yours? I will say mine, and you will walk away not knowing that you are my life. So take that out into the world, and as we've said all along, love more. The world needs it, and now we were telling the truth. So take it out there and love it. all over the place, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Bye.